We all begin life with a kind of purity, a clarity of self. As children, we don't question what we like, what excites us, or what moves us. We act on instinct, curiosity, and the raw force of who we are. But somewhere along the way, the noise of the world begins to drown out that clarity. Expectations are placed upon us. We are taught to prioritize what others think, to fit into norms, to seek approval, and to avoid rejection at all costs. And slowly, so slowly that we don't even notice it happens, we begin living for others. Living for others doesn't always feel like a conscious choice. It's subtle. It begins with small compromises, saying yes to please someone, pretending to agree to avoid conflict, chasing achievements because they'll make someone else proud. But over time, these small acts of self-betrayal accumulate until one day we look in the mirror and see a stranger staring back. We feel disconnected from ourselves, unsure of what we truly want, what we believe, or even who we are. Why does this happen? Why do we trade our authenticity for the approval of others?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
It begins with fear. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of being alone. We crave belonging because, deep down, we associate it with safety. If others accept us, we feel secure. But this craving for acceptance often turns into a trap. We start molding ourselves to fit other people's expectations, thinking that by doing so, we'll win their love, their respect, their validation. And maybe, for a time it works. We get the approval we're seeking. But it comes at a cost, the cost of abandoning ourselves. Here's the irony. The more we live for others, the less fulfilled we feel, and the more we resent the very people we're trying to please. Why? Because living for others creates a divide within us. But there's the person we pretend to be, the one who says and does what others want, and then there's the person we truly are, buried beneath the masks. And the more we ignore that inner self, the louder its voice becomes, whispering that something is wrong, that something is missing. But what is it that's missing? It's not just joy or freedom or peace, though these things are part of it. What's missing is a sense of wholeness. When we live for others, we are fragmented, split between the truth of who we are and the image we project. This fragmentation is exhausting. It drains us, confuses us, and leaves us searching for something we can't quite name. The key to breaking free from this cycle is not rebellion or defiance. It's something deeper, self-awareness. We cannot stop living for others until we understand why we started in the first place. What are the fears driving us? What are the beliefs we've absorbed about who we should be? Who taught us that our worth is tied to other people's approval? These questions are not easy to confront, but they are essential. Because until we recognize the forces that have shaped us, we cannot begin to reshape ourselves. One of the most difficult truths we must face is this: no one else can give us the validation we're seeking. We can chase approval all our lives, but it will never fill the emptiness inside us. Why? Because the approval of others is fleeting. It is conditional. It depends on us meeting their expectations, which are constantly shifting. True validation, the kind that brings peace and confidence, can only come from within. It comes from knowing who you are, from accepting yourself fully, and from living in alignment with your own values and desires. But how do we begin to find ourselves when we've spent so long living for others? The first step is to get quiet. The world is noisy. It's full of voices telling us who to be, what to want, and how to live. To hear our own voice, the voice of our true self, we need to create space for silence. This might mean stepping away from distractions, from the constant input of social media, from the opinions of others. It might mean spending time alone, not to escape the world, but to reconnect with ourselves. When we allow ourselves to be still, something remarkable happens. The layers of noise begin to fall away, and beneath them, we start to hear the faint whispers of our own truth. These whispers might come in the form of a question: what do I want? What makes me feel alive? Or they might come as a sense of resonance or dissonance that tells us whether we're moving toward or away from our authentic self. Either way, these whispers are our guide. They are the voice of the self we've buried, calling us back to who we truly are. But finding ourselves is not just about listening, it's also about unlearning. Many of the beliefs we hold about ourselves are not our own. They were given to us by others, by parents, teachers, peers, society. And these beliefs shape how we see ourselves and the world. They tell us what is possible, what is acceptable, and what is worth pursuing. But not all of them are true. Some are limiting. Some are harmful. And some are outright lies. For example, how many of us believe that our worth is tied to our achievements, that we are only as good as what we accomplish? This belief drives us to overwork, to push ourselves to exhaustion, to chase goals that don't even matter to us. Or how many of us believe that we need to be liked by everyone to be worthy of love? This belief leads us to people please, to suppress our true selves, to sacrifice our own needs for the sake of approval. These beliefs are not truths, they are chains. And if we want to find ourselves, we must break them. Breaking these chains requires courage. It means questioning the narratives we've been taught and being willing to let go of the ones that no longer serve us. It means saying no to things that don't align with our values, even if it disappoints others. It means being willing to face the discomfort of standing alone, of not being understood, of not being liked by everyone. But this discomfort is temporary. The freedom that comes from living authentically is worth it. Here's the paradox: the more we live for others, the more disconnected we become, not just from ourselves, but from the very people we're trying to please. Because when we're not true to ourselves, our relationships are built on falsehoods. We show people a version of ourselves that isn't real, and in doing so, we prevent them from knowing and loving us for who we truly are. But when we live authentically, something incredible happens. Our relationships become deeper, more genuine, more fulfilling. We attract people who resonate with our true self, rather than our facade. Authenticity is not about perfection. It's not about always knowing exactly who you are or what you want. It's about being honest with yourself and with others. It's about showing up as you are, without pretense, without masks. It's about allowing yourself to be seen, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it feels risky. So let me ask you this: what would your life look like if you stopped living for others? If you let go of the need to please, to prove, to conform? What would it feel like to live a life that is fully your own? These are not easy questions. They require us to confront our fears, to challenge our beliefs, to take risks. But they also hold the key to our freedom. If you've spent most of your life living for others, reclaiming yourself might feel like an act of rebellion. But it is not rebellion, it is liberation. It is the process of stepping out of a life defined by expectations and stepping into a life defined by truth, the truth of who you are, the truth of what you value, the truth of what you want, independent of the noise around you. But this liberation is not handed to you. It must be claimed, and claiming it requires courage. Because to live as your full, unapologetic self is not easy. It demands that you confront fears, challenge norms, and risk rejection. One of the most important steps in reclaiming your voice is learning to say no. For many of us, this word feels dangerous. We fear that by saying no, we will disappoint someone, lose their approval, or damage a relationship. And so we say yes over and over, even when it costs us our time, our energy, our mental health. But every time we say yes to something that goes against our true self, we are saying no to ourselves. We are reinforcing the idea that our needs, desires, and boundaries are less important than the expectations of others. Saying no is not selfish. It is honest. It is an act of self-respect. When you say no to something that does not align with who you are making space for the things that do. You are creating room in your life for the people, activities, and goals that truly matter to you. But saying no requires clarity. It requires knowing what you stand for, what you value, what you are willing to give, and what you are not. Without this clarity, your no will always feel shaky, uncertain. So the question becomes, what are your boundaries? Where do you draw the line between what you are willing to give and what you are not? Boundaries are not walls. They are not about shutting people out or avoiding connection. They are about creating a foundation for healthy relationships, both with others and with yourself. When you set boundaries, you are not just protecting yourself, you are teaching others how to treat you. You are saying, "This is what I need to feel respected, valued, and safe." And when others honor your boundaries, they are not just respecting you, they are also respecting the relationship. But setting boundaries is not enough. You must also honor them. How often do we set a boundary only to let it crumble the moment someone challenges it? We say, "I can't take on any more work," but when someone asks, we agree anyway. We say, "I need time for myself," but when someone pressures us, we give in. Why do we do this? Because we fear the consequences of standing firm. We fear being seen as difficult, selfish, or unkind. But here's the truth. Every time we compromise our boundaries, we teach ourselves that our needs don't matter. And over time, this erodes our self-worth. Reclaiming your voice also means letting go of the need to be liked by everyone. But this is one of the hardest lessons to learn because the desire to be liked is deeply ingrained in us. We want to belong. We want to feel accepted. But the truth is, no matter what you do, not everyone will like you. This is not a reflection of your worth, it is a reflection of their preferences, their values, their perspectives. But trying to please everyone is like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips away. When you stop living for others, you will inevitably face criticism. Some people will not understand your choices. They may judge you, question you, or even distance themselves from you. This is painful, but it is also necessary. because the people who truly matter, the ones who love and respect you for who you are, will stay. And the relationships that are built on falsehoods, on people-pleasing, on living for others, will fall away. This is not a loss, it is a clearing. It is the process of making space for authenticity, for relationships that are real, for a life that feels true. But how do we handle the fear of rejection, the fear of losing people, the fear of being misunderstood? The answer is not to suppress these fears, but to face them. To ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? And is that fear worth giving up my authenticity? Often we find that the fear is rooted in old wounds, in stories we've been told about what it means to be loved, accepted, or valued. And when we examine these stories, we see that they are not truths, they are assumptions, projections, beliefs we've carried for far too long. Reclaiming yourself also requires you to reconnect with what brings you joy, passion, and meaning. When you've spent years living for others, you may have lost touch with these things. You may not even know what they are anymore. So start small. What lights you up? What makes you feel alive? What activities, places, or people make you forget the need for approval? These are clues to your authentic self. Follow them, even if they feel insignificant at first. Over time, they will lead you back to yourself. But don't mistake this process for selfishness. Living authentically is not about ignoring the needs of others or refusing to compromise. It is about creating a balance, a life where your needs are not always sacrificed for the sake of others. It is about recognizing that you cannot pour from an empty cup. When you honor yourself, you are better able to show up for others, not out of obligation, but out of genuine love and care. At this point, you might wonder, what does it mean to truly find yourself? Is there a fixed, unchanging version of you waiting to be discovered? Or is the self something fluid, something that evolves over time? The answer is both. There are core truths about who you are, your values, your passions, your essence that remain constant. But there are also aspects of yourself that are meant to grow, to change, to adapt. Finding yourself is not a destination, it is an ongoing process. It is the act of continually rediscovering who you are in each moment, in each stage of life.